All right. Hello and welcome everyone to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling Podcast. We are here live doing our preview and prediction episode on a big show coming up this weekend, of course, with Crown Jewel. An exciting time for us on this channel, being that we're seeing as we're Brits and we get to watch it at a reasonable time. We'll be touching on that later on in the show. But this one is going to be all about what we think is going to be taking place out there in Saudi Arabia. So we'll be back with our predictions and thoughts right after this one.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
You muted.
You're on mute, mate.
There we go.
Try again.
What happened there? Okay, bit of a delay. Yeah, as I was saying was, as the intro says, give that subscribe button a slam and check out more of our content. But this, of course, is all about the big show this weekend. Of course, as I mentioned earlier on, we will be back covering it on the weekend, but we'll talk about that later on in the show. Of course, we're going to go batch by batch. We do have our predictions table that we are all kind of trying to get at the top of as well. So it'll be interesting to see how some of these predictions go down. With that in mind, and we'll kind of have an update of that on that this weekend as well. But guys, what's your general thoughts about the card before we kind of jump match per match? What's your thoughts, Rob?
Yeah, I don't know. It's quite exciting. As you were saying before, like the Saudi shows used to be like just a random live event, you know. Now they're really like doing what the way they're producing it and stuff like it. It feels like it's another Mania, and I can't remember if it was on stream. But we said it.
Mania's big, but I get where you're going with it.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, but it feels like that. It's now a big five within the PLE thing. So we had the original four, but it feels like this is now the fifth one. Like it's been a reoccurring thing. So yeah, I'm really excited for it. I mean, the card looks stacked.
It's a busy card. What are you thinking, Dan? We've got 7 big matches. Are you on the same kind of page as Rob as far as seeing this as like one of the main PLEs these days, weirdly enough?
I mean, it's always going to be shrouded in controversy, them going over there and doing these shows in the first place. But I mean, I've got to say, like, whenever they seem nowadays, especially to put on these shows, they do seem to pull out all the stops, and they do give it that kind of big show feel, and you know that feeling of like, you know, I've got to say, like, these matches, like Rob was saying, like it's like a big 5 pay-per-view. None of these matches would look out of place on like a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania card, to be honest.
100%. Yeah.
You know, I think that's the kind of seemingly the vibe that they're kind of going with is, okay, let's, you know, sort like put these kind of wrestlers in front of this kind of audience and stuff. And yeah, I think over the years, obviously, it's got a lot. It's got a lot better. But
it's the big dog.
Yeah, the big dog there. And yeah, I think it'd be interesting as well to see what they do when they go over to Australia in February, and obviously Germany over in August, is it?
Yeah.
And then I think there's talk of France for Backlash or whatever it is. Or
it's looking good. I mean, these shows are definitely getting more of an international flavour, and I'm all for it. I mean, we've covered obviously the PLEs for quite a few years now on this channel, and the main Rebellious Noise channel before that. And the most exciting thing about WWE lately is the fact that they're going to these different territories. So really excited to see what they do there. But, you know, these Crown Jewel shows were that kind of first step in the modern era, at least. So, and they've continued to grow as well. So we'll break down each match as we go along, and we'll predict. Our predictions will be locked in. Sadly, Lucas couldn't join us tonight, but hopefully we'll get his predictions in there as well in time for our build-up show, which of course we'll be doing on the weekend. But I'll touch on that later on in the show as well. But let's get into the first match, which is going to be our predictions for Cody Rhodes versus Damian Priest, Mr. Money in the Bank, or Senor Money in the Bank, and kind of newly crowned tag team champion once again, obviously taking that off of Mr. Cody Rhodes over there as well. So what we'll do is Dan's got his magical dice, and we are now going to see who's going first.
All right, let's do this. It is number 2. So
All
Scott
right.
goes to you.
Okay, so this is a tough one because we talked about the other day when myself and Rob were doing last week's kind of podcast talking about the injury angle they're going with Cody, and we've done that before. We've done the kind of can he get through it and all that kind of stuff. So I haven't actually managed to see much of this week's Raw. So usually you kind of play off of that, and I'm kind of going into this kind of blind. I'll be honest, guys. So don't worry, you ain't got to help me. I understand it's a tough kind of strict game. This doing the predictions. It's cutthroat. So I'm not looking for sympathy, but generally speaking, I feel like Cody is just pretty much always coming out on top in these kind of matches. But I do think you need Priest looking somewhat strong. But then again, if he's got the briefcase, does he really just need a random win? So he's still got that briefcase. If he loses, he can still cash that in the future. Is it about just kind of having a fan? Whenever this is placed on the card, is it just about kind of being the people pleaser? So if that is the case, it's probably more likely to be that Cody wins it. So yeah, it's a really tough one, man. Like, there's no stipulation or anything like that, is there? So,
no.
I reckon that this is gonna be a win for Mr. or Senor. I'm gonna go Mr. Cody Rhodes, I think. Rob, where are you going with it? You're up next.
Yeah. I think this is the one I've kind of been in two minds about. Obviously, when we talk about doing like one of these at the stream for the predictions, I always think I try to visualize where it'd be, what would make sense, beforehand. So then that way, when it comes to it, you can kind of get a refreshed answer from everyone else, and then it can help you. But I really don't know. I mean, at the end on Raw, Cody was saying to Priest that he has the briefcase, and it's like he has a moment to cash in, but he will fail. And I don't know. I think it's really weird, but I think it makes sense to Priest to win because
I've regretted saying Cody straight away. Don't get me wrong.
It does feel like it, and I mean, there's stuff going on Twitter with like JD McDonough, and things. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. I think it makes sense for Priest to win, but I think it will be because of JD McDonough that happens. So
he's the one that kind of still needs being convinced by JD as well, right? Like he's the one that's the most shown. I feel anyway resistance against JD McDonough. So.
Yeah, it'll probably come to a thing like I can imagine it even being down to Cody does the crossroads and then he gets up and does the crossroads again, when he does it twice. And then literally as that's about to happen, JD McDonough does something, or someone else comes out, JD McDonough does something else.
Thing is though, if we get the shenanigans finish here, surely we're gonna have something like that later on. Spoiler alert, I don't think anyone thinks a certain result's gonna happen, and you need to somehow get out of that somewhat cleanly as well. And that storyline itself, I think we all know what we're talking about here, but the bloodline has had too many kind of involvements like that anyway. Yeah, indeed. So to kind of, that would feel like a slap in the face if it happened again. I already think it's a risky thing and we'll get to that later, but to also have it in this match, it already starts to worry me. Are we going to get too many kind of crazy, messy finishes? But
exactly.
Yeah. It kind of makes sense at the same time.
Yeah, the thing is, you've got to find things for Cody to do at the moment. I mean, if the main thing is Cody winning at Mania, which, again, is another podcast for itself, but we were talking about that's so close to Hogan's, like, his milestone.
Yeah.
You may as well let that happen. So it's the long, do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I just think we need to find something for Cody to do at the moment. And if he does this thing with the Judgment Day, well, what's next? Like, I don't think there is a big thing.
Yeah, it probably does time up for a bit longer. So maybe you're probably right. I think Damian Priest is probably the better prediction. Dan, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
Have you been swayed by either one of us, or I guess we're both kind of leaning towards Priest, but I'm locked in. Oh, you still muted, mate?
What is this bootleg show?
Yeah, no, sorry.
Mutomania. You're next, Rob.
If anyone heard dog barking, it's literally there's fireworks going off here and the dog's going mad.
Oh,
so,
yeah, of course, yeah. We are recording live on Halloween, so there will be a few. Not quite bonfire night just yet, but
no.
Yeah. Spooky.
Yeah. Don't let off fireworks when dogs are around, guys. Come on.
That's
naughty.
Not
Cool.
fair.
But yeah, anyway, we'll talk about big dogs later on, but we'll stick to Cody and Priest at the minute. So, yes, it's a tricky one, I think, this one, because obviously you're going to want to build Cody and keep Cody strong. But then obviously I'm not a huge fan of champions getting beat, even if they're like non-title matches. Like surely you'd want to keep your champions relatively strong. I think there's always going to be the shenanigans from Judgment Day, I feel. Obviously, we've got Rhea's got a match later on in the show. But, yeah, surprisingly, no match for Finn, no match for... who's the other one in Judgment Day? Dominic Mysterio, that's the one. He's criminal record, isn't it? Ex-con Dom probably can't
get over there,
can't get into Saudi. They don't let him in. And yeah, and then obviously it depends on what they're going to do with JD McDonough as well. So it's a case, I think, of are they going to stack the odds too much against Cody for this one? Although, yeah, part of me does think Cody would win it. There's part of me that's more swaying, I think, towards a Damian Priest win, but via shenanigans.
I think shenanigans are going to be involved.
There'll definitely be. Yeah, it won't be a clean victory. But I don't know. It's tricky. Like, because part of me wants to say, but then if anyone's going to overcome those odds and that shenanigan, it's Cody, because they're going to want to keep him strong. They're not going to want to have him have a big.
But I guess the shenanigans are an excuse for him to lose at the same time. So it is kind of the perfect thing there. Because the other way is like, I'm thinking, I'm locked in now. Maybe I could get the shenanigans, and Cody kind of gets the one up because he's, other people to come and help him or whatever else, like he's been hanging out with Jey Uso and whatever else. But at the same time, that doesn't feel as likely because we already had that last month, didn't we? Where JD kind of the Judgment Day got the benefit of him and then he kind of messed up. So for him to mess up again at Crown Jewel, I think they've already done that story, So unless they are actually just going to kick him out, but I think surely they're going to bring him properly into the fold. So
what, JD?
Yeah.
So what I reckon they could actually do though is they could even have Cody beats Priest, but obviously with help. Well, Priest has help. Cody will beat him, and then it will be Priest will be kicked out of the Judgment Day, and then bring in JD instead of him potentially.
I just don't see how in storyline you can kick out the guy that has the Money in the Bank. Like he's not exactly
and the tag titles.
Yeah, there's that as well. So
I mean, unless they do it as Cody beats him and then ask for a shot at the Money in the Bank briefcase potentially. Although I'm not a massive fan of putting the briefcase on the line, but so. Yeah, I think I'm going to go Cody actually. Yeah, I do think Cody. Well, Cody. I think is probably going to. I think he'll overcome the odds for this one.
All right, so now I don't feel so bad about Cody if someone else is going for it. But that's
how silly do you feel, Rob?
No, I'm good. Mine's definitely locked in, right? As Priest did get. You did put it down, right? Yeah, great.
You're in his
okay. I was going to say on the thing though that I get, it makes sense to be Cody, but. Sometimes when you hear a promo and you think it's too good for you to win straight away, like that promo was so good. I just think was that the one that they needed to use to put him over. And I think that's the other thing that swayed me. I was like, hearing what he said, I kind of like Priest. Priest has to win, otherwise it looks like Priest as well.
Okay.
So
yeah, it's always interesting again when you see like the most recent thing usually is a reverse of like what you've seen on Raw or whatever go home you're watching, So anyway, let's get into the next match. This one's going to be a really interesting one to predict, guys, because we might actually see Logan Paul leave the event with a WWE title around his waist. We've got, of course, Logan Paul going up against United States champion Rey Mysterio. This is going to be an interesting one to predict. So without further ado, Dan.
Booyaka, booyaka. Booyaka, booyaka, roll the dice.
Oh, well, wait. Oh,
Tree.
number 3. Is
Lucas.
that usually Lucas or is it Rob? But Rob's 4
Lucas,
and it goes.
it'll be me.
He'll be next anyway. There you go.
Yeah.
So, Rob, you get the short straw here. 3 or 4 is you now.
That's fine.
No, 4 would go round to you first, though.
No, for Rob's 4.
Oh, you're 4. Oh, okay. Sorry.
I'm normally number 4. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah.
So, do you know? I'm actually really shocked that I'm going to say this. But Logan Paul's walking out of Saudi with the United States Championship. I just think it needs to be done now. Like, I mean, we kept saying he's not going to beat Roman. He ain't going to beat Seth. And we've seen what happened against Roman and Seth, and both matches were great. He's done a couple of other things. He's had a bit of a feud with Rey when he was Logan teamed with Miz. We know he's good, and I think as a brand, they could use this. It's such a big thing, and I think is there any other celebrity that's won a title? Like, obviously David Arquette, but
Bad Bunny with a 24/7 title, which even that,
but like a title that actually meant something.
Yeah.
Well, Mayor Glenn Jacobs has won a couple.
Dwayne Johnson's won a few belts as well. To be fair,
Yeah.
the actor. You know the actor, yeah.
Oh, and that Dave, is it Bautista or something?
Bautista or something.
Jonathan Cena, I think.
Anyway, all right, stop playing around, guys.
Oh, Charlotte Flair's dad's won titles. Like, come on.
I just think it's a moment for WWE to really capitalize on something like that. Obviously, Logan
we touched on it loads, didn't we? Around again, like you said, I think the last Crown Jewel, whatever that Saudi event was, where you had him going up against Roman, and we were like, is there it can't be because it's the world title and it's Roman's incredible historic reign, but it was still that part of us going, but man, think about Impulsive and think about him on catwalks and not catwalks, red carpets, catwalks if he wants to do them. But having that title and those were the arguments, and it was, I think, nearly good enough for even that title. I think when it comes to the US, it's a no-brainer, or any kind of lower mid-card title. I think it's a no-brainer at some point, whether it's not now or not. I'm going to get to mine in a bit. I think it's a no-brainer to give him a title, but
I just, as you're saying, it's a way to showcase that title. And I'm not saying Rey doesn't do a good job of it, but as a way to showcase that title. I mean, if he wins it, Twitter's going to explode. TMZ will be all over it. It will literally put more eyes on Logan and WWE, having it in the background of Impulsive. If they do a new flavor and they call it, for example, they could call it like the Champion or whatever for Prime, it would then bounce off of that. So I just think there's so much that can go from that. So, and I actually want to see it. It'll be really interesting to see the response. I'm going Logan.
Interesting. It could be controversial to some, but Dan, what are you thinking?
So coming into it, I was thinking Logan would win. The more I thought about it, the more I was just thinking the result of the other singles title on SmackDown, the Roman Reigns and LA Knight match, I think will be a decisive factor in what happens here, because you got to think, if WWE put the US title on Logan Paul, then they're going to basically have, and Roman Reigns wins, they're going to basically have 2 part-time singles champions. So there's not going to be a single male championship on Raw. On SmackDown, sorry, because obviously the Intercontinental and World Heavyweight are both on Raw. US and Undisputed are on SmackDown. Obviously, Roman, we know, has a part-time schedule. If the rumors are to be believed, this is Roman Reigns' last title defense of 2023. So he won't be defending the title again until potentially the Royal Rumble.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So would you then, just for like your kind of 5 minutes of fame or 5 minutes of publicity, risk putting the US title on somebody that's not going to be there week in and week out? Because that would then, I guess, be your de facto biggest title on your brand kind of thing. I think the only way it works is Logan wins it and then loses it very quickly afterwards, potentially to Kevin Owens, because they had the little like beef on SmackDown. And obviously Logan and Kevin have got a bit of history as well. So that's the only way really I can see Logan winning the belt. Because that's obvious. That's what swayed me towards Ray. Was the whole
part-time factor.
two part-time champions, pretty much. Like, would they want two part-time champions? But for the publicity, it would be really, like as Rob said, it would be literally everywhere would jump straight on this and be like, oh yeah, it's going to be like the biggest kind of story of like coming out of the show sort of thing. I'm just trying to think. Go on, Rob.
I was gonna say, I think, and it's weird saying this, but let's say, for example, we'll get onto the main match, but let's say LA Knight won and beat Roman, the more talked about thing from any other company would be Logan Paul. And I think that's why it's so big, that's why I've gone that way.
Yeah. It's really tricky. Because obviously thinking of it in the sense of the publicity, you'd say Logan all day long. But then thinking of the WWE stuff, you'd think, okay, it makes more sense for Ray. Do they go with the publicity or do they go with the title being on the show week in, week out? I think, I don't know. I'm probably lean more towards Ray, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is Logan. So I'm gonna lock in Mysterio, I think.
All right, I'm gonna go opposite. I'm going Logan Paul. I think it will happen someday. And while you make a really kind of interesting case there, Dan, as far as the kind of part-time thing, I don't think anyone's looking at the US title at the moment as a kind of, this is why I tuned into SmackDown anyway. But I get what you're saying. I think the kind of risk reward is that much too tempting, essentially, to kind of not do it. Yeah, it could happen in a month's time or something like that. This could be something we're seeing here, but I think this has been set in motion. Looking at because even Ray winning the title was confusing. It looked like it was because of Santos Escobar and the storyline there. But now looking back, it happened not long after it was on Impulsive, where obviously they struck up a relationship and talked about working with each other, and this is it. And I think they've decided to put the title on Ray to put it on Logan. So that is what's kind of leaning me that way. I wouldn't be surprised if it did go the other way, because maybe they do get cold feet about Logan, or maybe they do get cold feet about the whole, as Dan says, a risk of having two part-time champions on SmackDown. But we've seen it before where they've kind of thrown titles on opposite shows or whatever else anyway. And I wouldn't be surprised if Logan had committed, seeing as he was going to be a champ, to a few extra dates or something like that. Or, as Dan says as well, possibly losing it quite quickly. Yeah. Either way, I do think, it's going to happen at some point. And I think Crown Jewel has very much been a Logan Paul type event the last few years, because it's all about getting the big stars. It's similar to what's just happened with the boxing, of course. Tyson Fury over there as well, is always having these fights there, it seems, these days. So it's it kind of just makes sense. So I'm going for Logan Paul to become a champion in the WWE this very weekend.
They're probably thinking as well that he won't get as because obviously if they were to do it in the States, I think he would just get booed out of the building.
But they want that though, don't they? He's a heel now, so that's okay.
I mean, I don't think he'd get as much though in a Saudi show.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest, they probably don't even like know who he is, because remember, this is the same people that wanted like.
No, but they're the people that were like in charge of like booking and kind of paying for the show, not the fans. I mean, judging by even their fan events they've been doing the last few years, the press conferences, like look how behind Sammy they were. Like it's like the crowd is gone are the days where the first few rows are royalty in those big plush seats and kids running around not paying attention. So I don't think it's anything like that to worry about. I think they're very kind of with it as far as the product goes, and I do think either way it's going to be a big moment. I think we're going to see it. But it's going to be a good match. I mean, we haven't really touched on that either, but like the match itself, I think is going to be absolutely incredible. I think the idea of these two people working together is something that really excites me. We've touched on it many, many times before, but Logan is, it's like use whatever kind of common phrase you want, essentially, but he's got used to it straight away and he's kind of hit the ground running. There we go. That's the one I use. Go ahead.
Sorry, before we just move on, do you know what? I just had this thought, and it really does make sense. Obviously, we'll get onto the Roman and LA Knight discussion. However, I think it's a unanimous answer. Who's winning that? But imagine Logan beats Ray. We have all this publicity, all this big build up for Logan to be this new champion, and then the person to take it off Logan is LA Knight. That will really put.
Oh, yeah, that's good. I mean, they had a great back and forth over here in London, didn't they? For the
Money in the Bank.
Money in the Bank and SmackDown.
Yeah. So I could see that happening as a way to
cushion
the blow for the fact that LA Knight didn't win. If it doesn't win. Do you know what I mean? So I feel
that's not a bad shout. And that's what we were talking about the other day, wasn't it? Well, a few weeks back now, saying that LA Knight, in my opinion, shouldn't be in this position just yet. I think they've kind of wasted something there. But if he was never going to win it anyway, which I don't think he's the person to dethrone Roman, I think they do have that set in stone. At the moment, things could change. But I think that is a good to go around. It's still confusing why they've done this at Crown Jewel, but hey, we'll get to that match in a little bit. Let's move on to another member of the Bloodline, a much newer member and a much newer member of the roster, in the sense that he's going up against what they're calling the greatest of all time. Hey, it's just a nick. Not that I'm not a fan of Cena, but it is starting to get on my nerves just a little bit. But hey, I'm all about showing appreciation to a legend like that. And he is about to kind of seemingly put over Solo Sikoa, whether that means he's going to win or whether that means Solo is just going to be put over by simply getting the rub, as they say, in the match, being in a high profile match with John Cena. It's a match that I think we've all expected to be announced for quite a while. They only announced it last week, and it felt like this has been coming since John Cena came back to the main roster. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where it goes, because it feels like a natural thing to do. Very excited to see how they perform on the night. But let's take it back to Dan with our dice, and we'll see who's going first on this one.
Right, let's have a look. It is this time. It's number 3 again.
Go on, Rob.
Do you know, I think this is such a tricky. Weirdly, I think this is probably one of the harder ones for me to pick, because on one aspect you've got the greatest of all time. You've got John Cena. On the other hand, you've got an up and comer. Can we still call him that? Still a fresh.
Yeah, he's still fresh. Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, he's still fresh. Fresh on in WWE at least. Obviously, he's done his NXT run, but as Solo Sikoa, and he's not had a lot to do in regards to his singles career.
Yeah,
because he's been so heavily involved in the Bloodline. And I feel like you can't have someone like an enforcer in the Bloodline. Yeah, and I say this, if it lost to Kofi Kingston, then you think all credibility of him being an enforcer would be out the window. But because it's Cena, it's a different take on it. It's a different mentality.
There's no shame in losing to Cena, essentially.
Exactly.
I mean, not like I feel bad. You've used Kofi as an example. Let's be honest. Former WWE champion, but he's not in that position anymore. So
he's not. Yeah, exactly.
There's only a brief period he was presented like that. So yeah.
And I love Kofi. The
Yeah.
stuff they've been doing with, we'll get onto that as well probably. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is the hardest one because I think one way, if Solo wins, Cena putting over Solo is a big thing, but then Cena losing again, I don't know. I'm so in two minds.
Well, because he has made a thing, hasn't he, on on SmackDown of been like 2,000 and odd days since he last won a singles match in WWE as well.
Oh my god! Do you know?
We did it. I was on the last build up where we did. Was it Fastlane? And we were trying to look into when his last win on pay per view was. It was ridiculous, like 2018. Like
Man, we had Andy on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's still the case, right?
Yeah.
So let's have a quick look. Go on, you guys carry on. I'm gonna.
Yeah, because we did it before. It was like, I think it was, if you count the Sydney show or Melbourne, wherever it was in Australia at that time, it was like 2018. But if not, it was 2017 or something ridiculous like that. But
all right, so I'm gonna go and I'm gonna say Solo because my thinking. My thinking would be, this is a long-term booking, guys. But thoughts on Cena is still going, right? Obviously, he leaves after this Solo thing. Solo wins. Cena goes back to Hollywood, and if all that stuff's happening, right? Roman beats Cody at Mania. Goes on, he beats the Hogan streak, and then the person to dethrone Roman would be Cena, who's still on a losing streak.
Because that's unnecessary.
I don't know.
I think
because
the likelier one out of that, where you're going, I thought you were going to say Solo. That's more likely than Cena.
No, because I think it would beat Flair's streak, which is a talking thing. Flair's now.
Yeah, you don't need to do both at the same time, then, do you?
I don't know, man. It feels like
by
breaking one streak, and it would break two things. It would break two history moment things. You know, so like in one.
That don't make it good, though, man.
I don't know, but seeing the beating Flair's record and then defeating Roman.
That's awful. That's awful.
Something they would do.
That's awful. Cena. All the people, Cena to be the one to dethrone Roman.
So yeah, Cena's last win apparently on pay-per-view was Greatest Royal Rumble 2018 when he beat Triple H 1-on-1 in Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
His last one-on-one victory came against Kane in a no DQ match on Raw in March 2018.
All right, so are you locked in?
I'm going.
Are you going?
Yeah, I'm going Solo because I think long-term booking. I think Cena could.
That is the one. That is crazy, Rob.
If you say that now, right? If that happens and it comes through, flip it and say, "I am a mastermind,"
I might stop watching.
No, but that or Otis winning Money in the Bank
back
again.
to the days of like 2006 and it being cool to not like John Cena. It's not about that. It's just no. Anyway, before I get more annoyed, Dan, who you think's winning this, John Cena or Solo Sikoa?
Simple Solo Sikoa for me. Don't think Cena's going to be winning it. I think Cena's role now is basically just putting over the newer talent. I think that's what he wants to do more. Yeah. So it's like, you got to think what does John Cena gain out of winning against Solo Sikoa? Nothing. What does Solo Sikoa lose from losing to John Cena? It's like, well, it could kind of derail what he's doing.
A lot of credibility, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if anyone's watched any of the WWE live events recently, then Solo's been on there I don't know what he was doing in the London one, but I went to the one last night and he lost there to LA Knight. Yeah, so so obviously he is trading losses backwards and forwards, but I just don't feel as though he needs to get beaten by Cena. I think it's more a case of the victory, I think, would do him the world of good and like Cena doesn't need it. And I think as well, they need to really build up this whole John Cena thing with the losing streak. So it could be eventually when he faces somebody, whether it is like a Seth or something, and it's like title versus career. So he either wins the 17th title or retires completely from wrestling,
that's not bad.
possibly.
Especially if it's someone that's already established, like Seth. Like, I don't want
Yeah.
the newcomer, because that's the problem with this. Is like the newcomer kind of needs to win.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the thing. Obviously, if it is somebody like Rob was saying, like a Roman Reigns kind of thing, it's like you wouldn't really want. See, I think that would just cheapen the Roman Reigns win if like you're losing to a guy that's not won in like well, thousand like
yeah.
5,
I think it's a
6
better
years,
story
I
to
think.
say can he still go? Rather
Yeah,
than,
I think, and the thing is, the World Heavyweight title, obviously, well, to be fair, knowing WWE, they would probably say, oh yeah, go after the NXT title, beat Bron Breakker or whoever is the champ, Ilya Dragunov, whatever, and yeah, we'll class that as like your 17th world title win kind of thing. But no, yeah, fairly easy one, as I say, for me, Solo Sikoa.
All right, so you mentioned Solo being in the kind of headline spot of these live shows that we've had over here in the UK at the moment. If you haven't already, check out our review of that. Myself and Rob went in depth on what happened here in London. Big thanks again to WWE for inviting us down. And it was a great show. And we went into, of course, what happens in a house show, but also what a house show experience is like if you haven't been to a house show before, and why we really do think that's kind of where it's at as far as, you know, just how fun some of these shows go, you know, and how kind of outside of kind of normalcy, really, what you see at these shows is not what you see on TV. They're a bit more loose with it, and there's some funny interactions and things like that. So go check that out, and yeah, subscribe while you're at it. Now, I think Solo is, you know, and I said it in that video, but you know, the fact that they put him in the main event with LA Knight, like he is kind of, you know, pretty much being made into a star already. And I would argue that, yeah, beating John Cena is a big thing for him, but there is that risk of, but how often, like, how much can it matter if John Cena just loses all the time anyway? But he's still John Cena. He's still got that star power. I think at some point he will have to get a win, but it can't be against a new guy. It has to be more of like a feud, like what Dan was just mentioned a moment ago. So even though I'm still somewhat torn, thinking, Cena's got to win at some point, for me, it's not this time. And I know we kind of said the same thing about Austin Theory, and that hasn't really done much for him. But I think for Solo Sikoa to beat John Cena is kind of a big deal. It's that kind of next step that he needs to take, and WWE needs to take with him.
So I was also thinking as well, obviously, due to like a thing to do with Cena, he defeated Umaga.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing, like the visual of him.
So I was just thinking, like, what a way to kind of put over Solo as well, saying like, obviously Umaga couldn't beat Cena, but Solo does. That'd be quite a good thing. It'd be like a nice little like nod to, you know, it's his dad, right?
No, this is
it
uncle,
cousin.
Uncle.
Yeah, uncle. Because I think
I don't know, man.
He's Rikishi, isn't it? He's the Usos' younger brother.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then Umaga was Rikishi's brother. So uncle.
Yeah.
Uncle Eddie.
All right. Let's move into our next match then. Let's talk about the women's title. Of course, we've got the returning Bianca Belair going up against Io Sky again. Just to kind of plug our video from the other day, myself and Rob go in depth about an incredible title match that we saw at that show between Io and Charlotte Flair. So would appreciate if you go check that out as well. But this one, spoiler alert, Io's got the belt still, so there we go, and she is now defending it against the former champion of Bianca Belair. Feels a bit typical, really, but hey, let's see what we all think as far as who's coming out with the title at the end of the night. So over to Dan with the shake, rattle, and roll.
Number 4.
Go, Rob.
This is even more rigged.
To be fair, you are at 2 numbers, so you got a 50-50 chance of it being.
Oh, Bloody hell, I feel like I'm being entered into the Rumble at number 1 and 2. Bloody hell. I think after the match that we see with Charlotte, I think that's something that they're looking to run going forwards. I know there's kind of a bit of up and down, but Bianca coming back, winning it straight away, it feels like the thing they done with Becky. You know, when she come back, beat
Bianca, ironically.
Bianca really quick.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that again. Like Bianca had a nice run, go down the bottom of the pecking order, get into another feud. Let's see where that goes. Yeah, I think that's actually really what I want to see, because I do want to see Io and Charlotte on a bigger stage. Because if we get that finish, oh my days, bro, it was intense. Like, we was on the edge of our seats. Dan, did that match they run at?
Well, let's not spoil it in case anyone's got. As we said on that show, a lot of these things happen over and over again, the same spot. So let's not spoil it. Just in case,
amazing.
But,
So wait, hang on. Are they doing another one tonight, or was the Nottingham? No, I think they've got Glasgow today, haven't they?
Yeah, and then,
or
I mean, it's not just UK
Glasgow,
though, isn't it? They'll go to other towns, obviously, outside of the UK, is what I mean. So
yeah.
But anyway, let's move on.
But yeah, like the spots like they were doing, and it seems like they're getting ready to set that in motion. And I think this is just a pit stop for Io. I don't think Bianca's winning. So yeah, I'm going Io Sky. I think they're doing something bigger for her.
All right, Dan, what are you thinking? Bianca coming back and getting her belt straight away, or not?
I mean, it's possible. Because it's something that obviously it's strange to say this now, in the previous WWE regime is what would generally happen when Vince was in charge. He used to love that whole like, oh, come back and you win your title straight away. But I think Triple H has this faith in Io to carry this title for a significant amount of time, really. It could theoretically make storyline sense, the fact that obviously Bianca lost the title to Io at, was it SummerSlam, I think? But then you've also got to think it's not just going to be Io Sky, is it? It's going to be probably Bayley and Dakota Kai as well will be there. So it's essentially going to be like a 3-on-1 thing. So I would not be surprised if there are shenanigans here again. I think that, like this is going to be shenanigans central, this show, I reckon. But I reckon Io will be winning this match through the help of Damage Control, potentially getting involved. Bianca will probably still get like help from, I don't know, maybe like Shotzi or Charlotte even, potentially, depending obviously what the schedule is for Charlotte. But yeah, I think Io retains. I think, you know what, I'd actually be interested to see Io, Bianca and Charlotte in a triple threat down the line. That could be an absolute like banger of a match. So yeah, for me, Io retains, I think.
Are you sticking at that and you're not bonus pointing the prediction that they will get involved or anything? You're just going to straight out do the win, yeah?
Yeah, straight up win, yeah. Because it's not, I don't think it's not going to like, it won't be a case, I think, of like a win by disqualification. It'll be a straight up Io Sky win.
Okay, got you. All right. Yeah, I think this is a tough one just because you just don't know what WWE want to do with it. I think the right decision is to make Io win and keep the title on it. I'm not saying that she needs to have a long reign or anything like that. I'm not saying that, you know, if it was any other opponent that I wouldn't be saying, oh, it could be time for her to lose it. It's just simply for me, not a good idea to put it back on Bianca. Entertaining wise, as much as I think she's a fantastic performer and was a great champion, like she got stale, and the whole thing was like she's either got to turn heel or go away for a bit, and she went away for a bit. If she comes back and wins the title, we're back where we were. Like, it's, you know, it can't. It can't be that. It needs to be. But then again, what else do they do? Why is she back in the fold straight away within the title picture? So even if she doesn't win, does she go in the feud where eventually she picks it up again? I think she needs to move on to something else. There needs to be kind of a grudge feud or something like that. Unless it's because they now suddenly have a big plan for her. Obviously, we still don't know where Cargill's going to kind of factor into this. I personally think that's why I thought last month Charlotte winning made sense, because I think Cargill versus Charlotte would have been quite an incredible kind of marquee match as well. But hey, it doesn't look like we're getting that anytime soon, but these are the kind of things you have to factor in. But I'm going to go with my heart and what I hope happens, which is Io retains. Again, nothing bad against Bianca or nothing kind of super thrilled about. Io's the best champion ever, even though I have enjoyed that as well. It's just that it's not the right combination for who should be taking the title off of Io, in my opinion, at the moment. So if it was someone else, I'd be open to it. Not Bianca at this very moment in time. It feels a bit too forced. So I'm hopeful that Io retains. So I'm going to go with that and say Io will retain. All right, let's move into one I think is going to be quite a tough one to predict personally. I don't know how you guys feel, but this one has been a tough one to predict every single PLE in some ways, because it is a new title. Of course, Seth Rollins defending the new version of the World Heavyweight Championship against Drew McIntyre, a title that this man hasn't won. I think both versions of it, if you're talking about the old big gold as well. And Drew, of course, has had a bit of a tweak in his character lately. He's been very kind of, I say cryptic, but straight up quoting broken dreams and things like that on Twitter as well. Of course, we're going to deep dive into a lot of these subjects, guys, on our build-up show this weekend as well. So make sure you stick with us, subscribe if you haven't already. And essentially what we do is we get yourself and ourselves hyped up for the PLE. And of course, it is at a reasonable time for us here in the UK. So we'll be covering that from around 3 p.m. UK time. And then after that, we'll be hitting you with a watch along, and we'll also have an instant reaction review. And of course, like I said, on our build-up show, we go in depth on quite a few different kind of subjects and tangents as well. But it's about kind of getting hyped up for the show overall. But bringing it back to this match, I do think there is a potential that Drew McIntyre leaves with the title, or it could be not winning the title that fully switches him into the heel, you know. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Dan, do the honors, and
let's see.
We'll really jump into it.
Right. Which one of Rob's numbers is it now? Oh, number 1. There we go. It's me first this time. So, okay. So, it's weird. It's like the old Roddy Piper thing. Just when you think you've got the answers, WWE changed the question. Because obviously they were playing on the whole Seth's back thing against Shinsuke
Nakamura, yeah.
Surprisingly, they've not mentioned it in this Drew feud. I guess because a lot of that stuff was obviously around the Shinsuke stuff, but it's very strange why suddenly, like, why Drew is in this position, like from a storyline point of view. See, the thing is, so part of me does think that Drew has a very good chance of leaving here as the World Heavyweight Champion, but then it's kind of the way WWE seem to go with Seth. I mean, I'm just trying to have a think realistically, like throughout the other title matches. So you've got obviously the US title match, the WWE Women's title, then you've got the two that are coming up, the Women's World title and the Undisputed title. So for me, I think if the US title changes, I mean, I don't think they're going to go for an entire show without a single title change. Now, my predictions would kind of contradict that at the moment, because obviously I've said Mysterio's retaining and Io's retaining. So going into this one, you'd think potentially, okay, is this going to be Drew McIntyre's time? Or is it going to be more broken dreams for Drew McIntyre? It's tricky, man. So I don't like going first. Oh. And then also we're forgetting that there's also the whole Damian Priest lurking with a briefcase as well.
And it's surely going to be this title, if any.
Yeah, it'll be this title.
So yeah, again, every PLE, this is a tough one to kind of pick.
And at the moment, I think while Priest is a heel, it makes sense for him to cash in on a babyface, which would be Seth. But I know there were rumors previously that they were going to have him as a babyface world champion, which I don't know, like how they would kind of get to that from the Judgment Day thing, unless he got kicked out of Judgment Day, yada yada. And then someone like a Drew and a Priest would be a banger of a match, to be fair, for that title. All right, circling back round to this. Who is coming out of this with the title? Oh, come on. Seth or Drew? It's... Which one?
Come on, mate, we ain't got all night.
I'm going to go Seth. I'll think Seth's retaining it. I think Seth's going to do Saudi as champion.
Look, I agree, man. It's a tough one to pick. Because I think every time, because it's a new champion for a new title, I was very tempted before with Shinsuke, and who else did we have? Even when AJ was in the fight, getting close to the final. No, Baszler, sorry, obviously had Universal book for the day, but it felt very much the time to give someone else a chance. Have you established name as Seth, like make something of it and then give that person that's never quite done it to get it to kind of freshen both things up. Drew, while he's been WWE champion quite a bit, it still feels quite fresh if he was to hold this title and gives it that prestige again already. But I'm more tempted to say that his full kind of heel turn, I feel like he's going to lose and snap basically at the end of the match. And because of that, I'm leaning towards Seth, because the only thing that puts me off is that Seth had that ridiculous, he had the whole back thing, as you said, but then he ridiculously got battered and then somehow won out of nowhere, and that was it. It was sort of like Super Cena at the end of the last PLE against Nakamura. So the image already, I can see it, Seth broken in, he's holding his ribs and got bandages for the next 2-3 weeks. I'm kind of sick of it. It's sort of like the Cody thing again, playing off of the same kind of, can he be resilient and come back and power through this injury? Can Seth, hold out? His body's breaking down, but he's a true warrior, it's kind of annoying, but it does kind of make sense for someone. If we are going in the direction that it looks like we are going in for Drew McIntyre, it does make sense for that kind of to play into that as well. So because it feels like it's kind of coming together at the right time, even if I'm not sure about some aspects of it, because we've seen it already, there's other sides of it that I am actually really intrigued by, which is a kind of proper heel Drew McIntyre, who potentially does become the champion, but not just yet. I think something extra has got to happen for him to go out that gear. And again, we've already seen Seth holding on to it. But so if it was any other storyline, I'd say it's about time he lost it already. But I think for the purpose of progressing the Drew thing, it probably makes sense for Seth to hold on for a little bit longer, for Drew to kind of take it off of him in a few months' time. Instead. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Seth Rollins, but I wouldn't be upset if Drew McIntyre was holding up that title at the end of Crown Jewel. I said at the end, who am I kidding? It's probably going on second. Anyway, round to you, Rob.
Sorry, I was all doing dinner as well as you were talking.
Oh, what'd you order? Very, very professional of you, mate.
Did you see it? No.
all right.
You bloody told us anyway. You pulled the curtain back. What did you order?
We don't get sponsored by a man, so I'm not going to brand.
Just tell me what food did you order?
It's we had it when we went to WWE.
That's not happening. You've ordered from a fast food establishment that sells predominantly burgers. Right, anyway.
There you go.
Good one.
You in marketing by any chance?
And you know what? For that, I hope we overrun and you miss your delivery now.
People downstairs.
And anyway, this ain't the show for tangents. This is meant to be the professional one. It's the build-up show where we do go off onto kind of wild talk. But anyway, join us over there on Saturday. Rob, what are you thinking? Yeah. Let's get serious now. Drew McIntyre. There's clues in the name as to what you've ordered there.
So have you got? Are you going to go for a big McIntyre?
You going for the Big Mac or the what can we do?
Well done.
I can't even
Well
think
done.
the Seth Rollins.
Yeah,
or rolls, something to do with rolls. I don't know.
I just
Bacon
how many
Rollins.
times?
There we go.
How many times can we have the same Seth Rollins overcoming? You know, like
just like the Cody
getting
thing,
battered from pillar to post. Yeah, it's there was the we got it with Shinsuke. I really enjoyed it. Do I want to see it again? Yeah, but it's there's too many people that are just defying odds right now. Of like, I can go through this and I will crawl to victory. Like like Anakin in Star Wars is like, even though he's on the lava and he's like, you can't beat me. Is that how far we need to get with Seth?
The only thing we're missing is a Super Cena, so we're pretty lucky he's been on a losing streak. Because if he was Super Cena while all this stuff was going on with Cody and Seth, it'd be pretty frustrated.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, we're all. Would you say we've got a fully fledged heel Drew McIntyre now, or do you think it's almost there?
I think we can still go up a notch.
Yeah. All right. Well, then going up a notch is, I think, it's cementing that by him winning, Drew McIntyre, that is winning the title and saying, "I beat Seth."
I just think. I just think he'll still get cheered in a weird way at the moment. So I don't. I feel like he's got to do something. Again, I haven't seen Raw, so I don't know. Did he go wild on Raw? Like, was he proper naughty boy?
It was a good promo. Like the back and forth was good.
Yeah.
Was it a promo? I think it was a promo.
Wait, Drew on Raw? He can't have been on Raw.
SmackDown. That's SmackDown.
Yeah, because he was literally on. So he was on the show in Nottingham last night.
Oh, so he hasn't even been featured on Raw.
No, I was going to say, it was SmackDown. You really confused me then.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been on Raw.
Oh,
unless
it's a Raw title, isn't it? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So unless he did like a pre-taped segment.
Got me thinking now.
Anyway, so who are you going with, mate?
Look, I think I'm going with Drew, because I like the idea of saying I'm the one that broke your back, and now I've also broken your dreams, and then being able to bring out broken dreams again.
Yeah.
I think that if they're going to do broken dreams, that has to be a big babyface thing, because there's no way they're going to play that music and it'll get
kind of done that, but I don't know.
The thing is, when we wanted it before, it was because it was like, it'd be amazing for him to come out of it. But the fact that, so the fact that he beats Seth, and basically that song that everyone loves, he's using as a way to annoy everyone else. It's trying to twist it.
I mean, when he had it before, as much as it's a banger, like, he weren't a babyface, so it's not like a fond memory of like, happy-go-lucky Drew. The whole story was that, if it was at WrestleMania, where I think it was supposed to be originally against Brock until what happened, and then it ended up being a Clash. It was because it was the height. It was like kind of the journey had come to fruition. It seemed, obviously, it wasn't to be in Cardiff, but it was that was the only way to use it as a babyface. I think it's open to use it as a heel now.
I think as a heel as well, it's such a better song for a heel.
Yeah.
I really do.
All right, so you're going Drew.
Yes.
Okay. Is that all of us for that match?
That is, yeah.
All right. Going to be an interesting one. And again, we've locked these in now, but we will go into, these a little bit more on our build-up show on Saturday from 3:00 UK time. And of course, we'll be touching on all the things that kind of impact Crown Jewel predictions as far as SmackDowns go home as well. But let's move on to the title that is also on Raw. We're talking about the Raw. I was going to say the Raw Women's title. It's now the World Championship, isn't it, of the women's division?
Yeah.
We've got Zoey, Shayna, Rhea, Raquel, and Nia. And I mentioned this the other day when myself and Rob did a podcast last week. If you haven't already, go back and check that out, where we were talking about how when some of these matches were announced, just kind of we weren't predicting them then because we knew this was coming up, but we were talking about just how kind of strange it was to have 5 people in this match. So I won't go too much into that on this pod because we've done that already. But Dan, let's see who's going up first anyway.
All right, let's go.
There's more people in that match than us on this pod, and that's not a common thing.
All right, number 1, me.
Go on, Dan. You tell me why Rhea Ripley's winning.
Okay, I'll tell you why Rhea Ripley's winning, because she's the most dominant woman in the women's division at the moment. She is going to prove that by defeating the 4 best, seemingly, that Raw has to offer at the moment in Raquel Rodriguez, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, and Zoey Stark.
Have we heard if this is an elimination match or anything like that?
No, well, they've announced it as a fatal 5-way, so
it
I'm
should
guessing
be
that'll be
a pin to win, and
first 4 wins.
First
yeah.
4.
So I think what they're doing is they're kind of leaving the door open for the other 3 to have potential feuds against Rhea. So I would imagine Zoey Stark will take the pin in this, and then it will be Raquel, Shayna, and Nia will be the kind of next 3 challengers for Rhea Ripley, and then obviously they'll be like, "Oh, I never got pinned," and all that old chestnut kind of thing.
Yeah.
But quite quick and simple, really. Rhea Ripley retains here.
Yeah, I think the biggest part of this conversation is, as I said, about why they're 5 and why certain people were in it. It does seem a bit mismatched. Is it about just throwing everyone on the card? It's not exactly a WrestleMania, but there we go. I think Rhea Ripley has to win. It'd be ridiculous if anyone else won, as much as I'm a big fan of Shayna. And what you even said there kind of makes sense. But then again, she's been a heel as well. Zoey seems maybe being pushed to the future. The whole Trish thing's fizzled out anyway. Nothing happened from that. Raquel seems like someone that they do want to give the title to in the future. I don't think it happens in a fatal 5-way. And Nia Jax has had a big shine lately. You know, she's been quite heavily featured. So I guess if anyone seems more likely to take it off of her, I think I'd be more tempted to go with Nia. But judging by kind of what the state of the division and the state of the kind of the show as far as Judgment Day and how she features into that, I think it would be absolutely ridiculous if she lost the title. She's pretty much the leader of the Judgment Day these days. So I think it would be crazy. If she's the one that keeps them in order, man, you know, like when they were kind of
you need a mummy figure. That's what it is.
There you go. So I think it'd be ridiculous if she lost the title. Anytime you get more than one person possibly winning it, it does kind of throw it open and go, man, like the chances do kind of change a little bit there. But still, if there was any time that a fatal 5-way was pretty clear, I think it's this one here. We'll see how that goes on Saturday as we watch along, as I watch in horror to Mami losing their title live, which you can watch on this very channel with our watch along. Rob,
just thinking, you know, I might have to order some food for that watch along.
yeah, we'll talk about that on the day. We'll get some snacks in or something.
Just get it all on the Rebellious Noise account, mate.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
like the tickets to Elimination Chamber, yeah.
All right, yeah.
First class flights to Australia.
if Rhea Ripley win, no, I'm joking.
I agree with what you were saying, Scott. It doesn't make sense for Rhea to lose it here. However, I mean, they're pushing Raquel. A lot of the women in this match, even though they've been randomly like thrown in, they've been kind of at a standstill with a push. They've kind of had it and it stopped, and it's stalled a bit. And let's say someone does win, it could really elevate someone. But I really don't know if they're going to pull the trigger and do that on that night. It just feels like Rhea needs to kind of keep that, as you said, like that dominance with the title. She's making it credible. You know, it feels like she's not having a lot of defenses, but when she has them, they're good.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say Rhea retains, but I don't know if there needs to be a stipulation for this match. Like it's just strange. Like I just can't get my head around. It's just 5 women and then one of them wins and that's it. Like, do you know what I mean? I know the odds are stacked against Rhea, but
yeah, it'd be it would be better if it was elimination and make it look better as well.
I would like the idea of the elimination because there's always someone going out. Or we can always go back to, I keep saying it, the championship scramble. Like that is perfect for this kind of thing. Because, you know, like Nia could win it, then everyone, do you know what I mean? And it gets right down to the wire, the final
somebody gets away with it, sort of thing,
or seconds or something, you know, and then and Rhea luckily retains, you know, and that because I think just by doing something like that, it kind of puts across she just scraped, you know, because the odds are stacked against it. So I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do that, but in my opinion, that would probably be the best way to book this match.
Yeah, it's hard for it to be dominating in a match like this when you've got big kind of,
all the women,
Shayna is, presented
they look
sometimes
credible
as a killer, and Nia is like a monster, and Raquel looks like this kind of powerful, giant, and then you've got Zoey, who kind of has been positioned as kind of ruthless and possibly the future, so
yeah.
All
of them,
but
their personas for all the women that are involved in this, they look. I wouldn't be against any of them carrying the title at some point, like it, and they've been built up that way. And even Nia, like I know she's had her moments in this, but she could still do stuff for that title and it make it look good. So it's really hard just to go, oh, it's one pin and done. Like I don't think it does the match and the women and that title any justification. Like if you want to make it mean something.
I guess the thing is, like, it seems like they like 5 match cards these days, and we've already got 7. And these shows don't usually go on that long, the Saudi shows. So I guess it's already a risk that it's a long match, so they can't. But then how annoying would it be if there's 5 people in the match in the last 6 minutes? Like, that'd be even worse, So
exactly.
It ain't going to look good, is it? So,
no.
Yeah, be interested to see how they present it. But I think we're all pretty kind of much in agreement here that it seems like the best thing to do is probably keep it on Rhea, and I think we're all kind of in agreement that it looks like that will be the case as well. Now we're kind of ending on 2 matches that somewhat feel predictable, I'm going to say, and I guess I'm speaking for you guys here, but we've hinted about it before on this channel a little while ago, myself and Dan, from what you said tonight as well, makes me think you're probably in the same kind of boat as us as well. Any other time, I think I'd give this a bit more thought. Any other place as well, I think for Roman to lose it at Saudi would be crazy. And I feel like I'm kind of going a bit too forward here and giving my answer early. But I don't think anyone's influencing anyone here, if I'm honest. Maybe I'll be shocked when it comes around to it and someone is going to say something unexpected. And the biggest shame with this whole thing is, as I mentioned earlier on, is we shouldn't be talking about this. An LA Knight opportunity like this in this way. It shouldn't be this obvious for someone that has been such a kind of well-built star over the last kind of year. But anyway, we're going to talk about what we assume is going to be the main event. And with that in mind, for the final time tonight, Dan, will you do the honors and shake that dice?
Let's do this. Actually, you asked me, will I shake the dice? Yeah. Right, it is for the last time. Number one again. That's me. All right, let me talk to you. So
let's go.
Whose game is it? It's Roman Reigns' game, obviously. Roman Reigns, I think, will still be head of the table. Will still be the undisputed WWE Universal Intergalactic Heavyweight ECW, WCW, Rebellious Noise Heavyweight Champion of the world. So Roman Reigns, I think, will come out with the championship still around his waist after this one. As much as I would love to see LA Knight, come out of this with the championship, I think he will do well from having the Roman Reigns rub kind of thing. And you've obviously there's ways around it to like protect him, so to speak, where they can just use like Solo and is it Jimmy? Jimmy Uso. Use Solo and Jimmy basically to kind of help Roman retain the championship. As much as obviously I'd love to see an LA Knight victory. I don't think it's going to come here. I don't think LA Knight is going to be the man to dethrone Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns for me is going over and will be still reigning, defending, undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion of the world.
All right, I'll be quick. My prediction: Roman Reigns is winning again. Biggest disappointment in this is that we aren't giving LA Knight much kind of thought. It would be a massive shock, and maybe sometimes that's what they're going to go for. So maybe that's all you need. But I would be very shocked, and that is a big shame. because I do think it is risky having LA Knight lose the title and lose the opportunity, and not become champion. And the only way around it is to have a shenanigans thing. And I don't know about you, but I'm completely sick of the bloodline constantly getting involved. I think we mentioned the other day about the possibility. I don't know if it was on the show, Rob, or if it was on our way back from Wembley. About did you say about Ava Raine potentially coming up here? So I'll leave that for you then. But that's a possibility, of course. But I'm looking forward to it. I'll be taking for a ride. There will be a moment where I'm thinking, you know what, this is it. This is happening. But ultimately, I do think that Roman Reigns is going to win this. I think they are, and as we kind of alluded to earlier on, I think there's still a temptation to even have him go beyond WrestleMania to beat Hogan's streak, let alone lose it just randomly here at Crown Jewel. Even though this is the mega star, as he says. I'm not convinced that this is the right time for it, and they probably are they probably have a plan, and they're thinking, you know what, LA Knight's not going to beat Roman. This isn't, so let's at least put him in there with him before it's over. So let's at least build him up that way. So if take a step back, if that is the case, then maybe it's not too damaging after all to put him in this. But it is just a bit of a risk. But we'll see how it goes. And again, we'll touch on this in a bit more detail when we come to our build-up show. I appreciate we're heading off into later territory on this spooky Halloween night. Last thing I want, guys, is for the ghouls to start coming out as we're still live on air. So over to you, Rob, and put us out of misery.
It's really weird to say that we love LA Knight kind of in that way. I was saying this on the quick review we done like yesterday, that I got goosebumps when he come out and he cut the promo, at Wembley. And right, if that happened at Saudi, what a moment! Like, what a moment that would be. That'd be incredible. But it's weird. Like, LA Knight has got this push. He's doing really, really well. Like, solid work on the mic, in the ring, like presentation, everything. But now isn't the time. And it's weird saying that because
usually we're like, pull the trigger, but like this is the one. If he was going up against Seth, I'd be like, yep, do it. But like, as we said on, I think our Fastlane recap review, I was saying like, in my opinion, he needs to get the IC or the US, and then kind of build after that. And not even be in the Rumble match either, because I think that's too risky, because obviously that brings expectations.
The Daniel Bryan, Rey Mysterio situation.
And WrestleMania, which I don't think is the plan as well. So I honestly would again put LA Knight in something else so that the fans don't turn on the product at Royal Rumble when they inevitably, just like we did at Money in the Bank, expect him to win. So I think risky.
Exactly. It's like I just think, if you're going to pull the trigger for LA Knight, let him lose this in a way where it doesn't bury him. To be honest, I don't think it could be buried in that way. Like, it's too popular now. But I do want to see him go against Logan, because him beating, I think because the pop when he wins would be mad. Like, mad. Because I think Logan is like hated.
I think he needs to be screwed, because I think losing him would be damaging. Like, that would be kind of not a barrier, but like how could he not beat what? And are he supposed to be the next big thing? Unless he's screwed, like in babyface, kind of storytelling. But that's the annoying thing. We've seen too much of that as well. But it kind of has to be the way things go down, right? So I mean, you were talking about Ava being a possibility as well. So
so I'll go on to the Ava thing. So this is why I think he's going to lose. So on, I believe it was the NXT. The taping when they had like Cena, Cody, Taker, and whatnot. They stacked
the mad one.
NXT Mania, basically.
Basically. So there was a segment of like Heyman talking to Ava, kind of backstage. She hasn't. I don't believe she's been seen on NXT since. And if she has, I'll apologize. But let us know in the comments if she has. I don't think she has though. Where is she? Like, that's my, obviously the family.
I think it's coming. They've flirted with it for a reason,
Yeah, exactly.
We do actually have a clip on this channel actually where myself and Skillet were talking about the possibility of her joining the bloodline and kind of therefore the Rock has to kind of save her from Roman
Save
and all this
her,
kind of stuff.
which
So check that out on this channel as well.
yeah. Skillet's great as well. With them sort of ideas as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Go and watch that video. But yeah, I definitely think if Ava gets involved in this, it will be kind of the way that Solo done it. Like he just appears like with a hood or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that would be the way to kind of really screw LA Knight over. So it could be a case of Jimmy comes running out, LA Knight hits him, does the finish on him. He rolls out. Solo comes out. He does the same thing with Roman and I'm assuming Roman and the refs down. So Heyman's looking like, what do I do? What do I do? And then as the ref's getting up, Roman's getting up, Ava comes in, distracts him, spear done. Like it feels like that.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
It feels like that's the kind of way they'd go. Because that way Ava doesn't get hit by LA Knight. It doesn't make him look bad. Obviously,
and it kind of helps with the whole kind of screw finish as well. At least we get. I mean, it was difficult with the Drew one because it was a hometown crowd, so to speak, in the UK at least. But at least there'd be this excitement of, or at least something new's happening here. There's a new direction we're going in with the bloodline, So
yeah, I just
kind of
what I want to do. Like, if we know full well, and we're already saying that LA Knight isn't winning, I want them to do it in such a way, even though we know, but you've got to make him overcome all these odds. And then with Roman getting that pinfall, you're like, and it's the frustration. So then when LA Knight, let's say Logan Paul does win and he goes for Logan, the payoff is like, I won the title. Do you know what I mean? Like it has to work that way. So yeah, I'm going Roman, but I do think it's going to be like a screwy finish. Maybe
are you gonna bonus point that?
No, man. I don't know what the table is, but I've been so wild.
We'll go with a safe bet of at least Roman Reigns. All right, so we're all locked in there. Again, 2 to end on that were somewhat predictable. It feels, at least at this stage. We don't know. We'll see how that goes down again on Saturday. Join us for the watch along, and you'll see our instant kind of reaction. You can't get more instant than a live watch along. So join us for that to see how we react to that very match and the Rhea Ripley and the other 5 on this incredible card as well. As we said, we'll be back before that though for the build-up show. Get yourself and ourselves hyped up for that PLE as well. We'll be back from 3 p.m. GMT. You can see there 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern as well. If you haven't already, we'd appreciate if you would subscribe. And if you are someone that's into audio podcasts, you don't usually listen to it, or you've got a friend you want to kind of introduce to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling crew, but they don't usually watch YouTube, then the best way to tell them about us now, of course, is to let them know that we've got an audio version of the podcast live on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. So we'd appreciate it if you followed us there. As we mentioned, we've got a few things on this channel you might like to check out already. Not only the content that's coming up this weekend live for Crown Jewel, but of course the several videos we've had lately talking about TNA being back, as we mentioned on our stream from last week. We also talked about the house show experience, as we mentioned just a moment ago, and also plenty of content from the last few months as far as interviews with WWE superstars such as Mr. LA Knight himself as well. So if you haven't already, subscribe, check out more of our content, and we will see you this weekend for plenty more when we are talking Crown Jewel. Before we get out of here, I'll run it round. Dan, anything you want to say?
Just enjoy Crown Jewel, guys, and enjoy the watch along with these guys. And don't forget as well, go back, check out all the interviews as well that we did. There's a few of the guys that are on the show that we went and interviewed recently as well. LA Knight being one of them. And yeah, that's pretty much it from me, I think. It's been good joining you guys again. Not been able to get on these much recently, but yeah, it's been good to get back in the swing of things.
All right, and our famous luchador, Mr. Roberto himself. Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, just join us. Join us on the watch along. I'm assuming we're doing a build up as well, right?
Yeah. Been doing that build up.
So
3 o'clock, as I say. You've been joining us for our predictions and preview, but we will go a bit more in depth on these, judged by anything that might change as far as SmackDown. But we are locked in, guys. We can't change our predictions anymore, but that's sometimes part of the fun on those streams as well.
Yeah, I would say join us on the build up, because one of my favorite things is doing these build ups, because you never know what's going to happen. Like rumor mills and breaking
like news and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've noticed, but every time me and Scott tend to do watch-alongs, the further throughout the show it gets, the more delirious we tend to get at the same time.
Yeah, so just if anything, tune in for that.
If you want to see that,
they're always fun to do. You know, if you just kind of want to essentially watch wrestling with someone else, it'd be like having a little watch party with your friends. It's essentially what we try to bring to
exactly.
We don't often do these watch-alongs. Our friends over on the Give Me a Whole Year channel do it for pretty much every WWE show, so I encourage you to check them out as well. But we tend to only kind of do kind of classic pay-per-views or the Saudi shows, or again, because they're a reasonable time for us. So we'll be back for that. Again, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Thank you very much for everyone that's tuned in tonight, whether it's live or on demand. Please share this, like it, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And we'll see you this weekend for Crown Jewel coverage as well.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.